Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better life. Know that love and joy and peace is one in all of the same space. That you were chosen just like God. You can mine. God can mine your energy. That's right. God can mine energy. Only you can make the change. God can mine. Shine your head at you. Shine so bright from darkness to light. Hey, 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 hey. From darkness to light. Yeah. And you'll find your way out. Yeah, yeah. Oh, it won't seem way out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The power of God will flow through you from way out.
Welcome. This is Alchemizing Energy. I'm your host, DJ Genesis. And I'm sorry to be so late, guys, but I have had to work. I've been working, so I'm just getting home, and I've been wanting to cover this trial. I was hoping that I would be able to get some footage from Watching the World, but I'm not sure if he's made it into town yet. But I do have some coverage of the trial. Shouts out to Nick at Night and several other content creators that are giving information on what happened. So the first thing that I want to cover is the complete freeze out that's been going on with the media. Like, the biggest thing that's happening in this whole thing is that the courts are really trying to limit the access to the courtroom to the media. You know, they're trying to, I think, avoid a racial upheaval. You know, they don't want it to become like a SHIT show. So there's a lot of people that are probably not going to get access to this trial as they thought that they would. So I think there's some people that are probably not really going to be going up there as much, because I think that they're only allowing certain media outlets to go. But let's hear from a person I adore, Nick at Night, and she's there at the trial, and she is going to be covering it. So let's go and hear what she actually has her footage from earlier today. Let's go.
Mic today, but hold on, let's see. Oh, okay, I'm back. All right, so hey y'all, today I am reporting live from the Karmelo Anthony trial. This is day one where they are starting jury selection. Today, there has not been a lot going on for us to report on. Actually, they have everybody in a secluded room away from the jurors, away from everyone. We can't see anything. It's just us in a secluded room, sitting there, looking at each other, basically. But there is a strict gag order in place, so there is not much, like I said, happening. But before we get into the case, I wanted to let you guys know a little bit about the judge, the climate, and everything that has been taken on today so far. So,
see, the biggest thing they're trying to avoid, because when this case first started, there was so much going on. Judges were getting doxxed. It was just a mess, you know. And the young man had just passed on, and you know, it was really a mess. The media, I mean, I think the family had hired a PR person to kind of like speak for them, and it really got very messy. Then you had, I think, John Lane get up there, and he got involved, and you know, and so I think that what they're trying to avoid is an entire racial calamity like this being used to incite some type of a race war. And then when you have the Chud the Builder situation, this is going to make up for a very, very, you know, polarizing trial. So I think they're trying to limit, you know, the amount of media coverage for that reason. Let's go.
We got here early in the morning to kind of get a feel of what's going on, make sure we get a seat inside the courtroom, and make sure that we are here for these proceedings. When we came, we were met with a lot of other independent media who came out here to cover the case as well. Also, Karmelo Anthony has a big support group of people that are congregating back there. They are peacefully wearing all purple in solidarity or for him, support for him. And there are dedicated legacy media that is in there as well. So the way that we thought that things were going to be happening was that we weren't going to see the jury selection, but we were going to hear the jury selection. But so far, we haven't heard anything. There's no audio. There's no nothing. But I wanted to come to kind of give you guys a brief thing that I've read about the judge. And if you guys don't know, I'm covering the Karmelo Anthony trial, and we're here. So the judge that's presiding over the trial, his name is Judge John Roach Jr. He presides in Collin County, Texas, and he has a long stint as a judge. He has a very, 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 he's like an advocate of like veterans, but he's very, very strict. So here, what it has written, it says he is a textbook legalist. In public statements and candidate surveys, Judge Roach has consistently defined his judicial law and not creating it from the bench. Expect a highly literal, by-the-book application of Texas evidentiary and procedural rules. It says that he is a veteran advocate, and it says beyond the standard of the criminal docket, he serves as a presiding judge for the statewide Valor Program, which is the Veterans Accessing Lifelong Opportunities and Rehabilitation. And it says that because this case is high profile, they have pulled out all the stops. So this entire court is shut down for only this trial. So there is no other like business happening. They have shut down the entire court to only operate in business for Karmelo Anthony's trial. There is a heavy sheriff's presence. They definitely let it be known that they are no nonsense. They have a bunch of sheriffs right in the beginning, and then they have a bunch of sheriffs inside, and they have like heavy sheriff's presence here. And they are making sure that everybody is by the book, that you can't bring any electronic devices in. You can't bring a cell phone in. You can't bring an Apple Watch in. You can't bring your glasses if they look like they might be Meta glasses. You can't bring in anything that may look like it might be able to record. You can't bring nothing. So everybody had to take their phones to the car. The people who traveled here that didn't come with the car and that came in like an Uber or something like that, they had nowhere for their phones to go. They had to figure it out. They are very, very strict, and it's interesting. All of the legacy media that they selected, they look exactly like I predicted them to look. Okay, like older, generational people. That's who they selected for legacy media. Now, around, I want to say, after we had been in there for like an hour, in came this woman in a suit, like she just commanded the room, and she was looking for like the front row of seats. I don't know who she was, but she wanted the front row to whoever the people were that was with her, and they wanted to move everybody that was on that side away. They ended up, I guess, not having enough seats to accommodate, so she didn't come in. I don't know if she's in a special room. I have not seen anybody from the Metcalf's family here, but I have seen individuals who identified themselves as Karmelo Anthony's family. It's like 3 or 4 individuals. It's not like his mom or anything. It may be like extended family, but there is a lot of people that are in support. I thought just from the tone of social media and the way that, the online chats were going to be, I thought it was going to be more non-melanated people, but actually there is a lot of people who look like me here covering it. There's a lot of independent media here covering it.
Well, let me just tell you why. Because Texas has the biggest amount of Black people in the country. I mean, you go by state, they have the largest amount of black people. So, you know, people get surprised when they see the amount of black people in Texas. It's a lot of black folks. So I'm not surprised that you have a big presence of people of color, you know, but you know, and I'm not surprised that they're locking stuff down. They don't want to have a circus. You know, this is Frisco, Texas, guys. This is a rich Collin County. It's a rich area, and they don't want all the rigmarole happening in their area and things like getting all tore down and tore up. Let's go.
And it's not that. I mean, aside from legacy media, it's not that many people here that don't look like us, if you get what I'm saying, so far today. But that's just today. The actual trial does not start until Thursday. So they're going to be doing a jury selection.
Expect that to change on Thursday. Trust me. You're going to see people are just getting their tickets. I think that the biggest thing is that, you know, Spirit Airlines and those airlines are a little bit more pricier. So some people might have some issues like flying out there, you know. It might be a little bit more pricier to get to this trial versus, you know, people was able to get on Spirit and get booked $100 flight to get to the Diddy trial. Those flights are no longer that cheap. So you can't just do a last minute, let me go up there. You're going to have some money, some bread. Let's go.
All the way up until Wednesday. There's nothing happening tomorrow. There's going to be a jury selection today, jury selection Wednesday, and then they're going to start with their opening statements on Thursday, and that's when the actual trial will start. I was overhearing the bailiff. They said that there was roughly about 600 people that were selected to be pulled for the jury. And right now, while we were waiting inside, they basically said that the people that were coming to do jury duty, they were coming to just like pick up a packet. And basically the packet is like a questionnaire on whether they can serve or not serve or whatever the prerequisites are. I don't know what's in the packet, but they were coming, filling out a packet. And then, you know, people were coming and going like that. I don't know if they were like excusing people or if they were letting people, you know, leave to go fill out the packet or what have you. But that's basically what is going on. I don't know if you guys can see I'm trying to make it.
But let me just say this. Shenanigans has already started, y'all. As much as they're trying to keep everything under wraps, it's already shenanigans happening. You got people talking mess already. But let's first go with just some basic stuff, right? Let's go with this. Like, let's talk about this. Let's go first here.
The young teen, Frisco, Texas, charged with murder of Austin Metcalf. Just for the record, Karmelo Anthony was the victim. Karmelo Anthony was the victim the whole time. Karmelo Anthony was the one who was attacked. Y'all listening to his attackers. His attackers are the ones who are saying, oh, yeah, he said, touch me and see what happens. Those are his attackers. The only thing that's going to be argued in this case is whether the measure of self-defense matches the attack. That's the only thing that's up for argument. And if multiple people attack you and these people have about 50, 60 pounds on you and you on top of some bleachers, it's reasonably. You can believe that your life is in danger. One of them could have hit him. He could have fell, hit his head, fell down the bleachers, and died. So Karmelo Anthony was the victim the whole time. He was the one under attack. And if Karmelo Anthony was white and the attackers was black, most of y'all would understand that. Most of you wouldn't even argue it. You would be screaming it was self-defense. You would be saying Karmelo Anthony is a hero. He fought off those thugs. Karmelo Anthony wasn't the thug. They were the thugs.
So this is gonna get, like, as you can hear, it's already going there, you know, as far as like even just people covering it, you know,
are working with the expectation that this Karmelo Anthony trial is going to be a spectacle, something that will be proof of racial discrimination or racial tension here and there and up above and down below. And I'm here to pump the brakes on that expectation, because everybody was a little bit excited for the trial to start today, when, including me, a lot of people didn't realize that the jury selection process was going to occur first before anything actually kicked off.
I'm standing outside the Collin County Courthouse here in McKinney, Texas, where Karmelo Anthony's trial is underway. Karmelo, who's 19, faces a murder charge for the death of Austin Metcalf, a 17-year-old who was fatally stabbed last year at a high school track meet in Frisco. Court started this morning at 9 a.m. with what we expect to be a much larger jury pool than what's standard for trials, given the attention this case has received on social media. We've spoken with two different groups who have been protesting outside this morning. On one side of the aisle, we have a group that identified themselves as white nationalists who were holding a banner that said, "Justice for Austin Metcalf. He deserved better. We deserve better." And on the other side of the aisle, a group that has driven from all over the South in support of Karmelo Anthony. They told us that self-defense, which is what we're expecting his attorneys to argue in court, is not a crime. And that although some officials have said this case is not rooted in race, that they believe much of the discourse has been divided along racial lines. Only 9 members of the media are allowed inside the courtroom, including our courts reporter, Jane Harper, who will keep you updated as we expect testimony to begin on Thursday and last anywhere up to 2 weeks.
And it's believed to be the process of the trial is really going to kick off starting Thursday, as they spend Monday and I believe Wednesday going through the process of selecting a jury. And in that time, of course, you're going to see people outside of the courthouse being excited to support either Karmelo Anthony or Austin Metcalf. And inside, you're going to see people go through the process of proving whether or not Karmelo Anthony acted in self-defense, or if he's nothing but a cold-blooded murderer. And apparently, they've got about 30 plus witnesses that they could pull so that we could get some type of definitive conclusion. And I said that would be the driving key for all of this: witnesses. Because if you don't have enough video evidence to show how this scuffle began, the middle, and the end of it, you're not really going to have a conclusive decision. It's going to have to come down to what these witnesses saw, and if their stories line up to prove self-defense or prove Karmelo Anthony is nothing but a cold-blooded murderer. And of course, with that, there are going to be people, depending on the age range of all these witnesses, whether if they're minors or whether if they're adults, seeking to find out who these people are in an effort to prove that they're somehow bigoted, hateful, hate white people, or any other excuse possible if they don't get the decision that they deem necessary to prove that America has fallen or a justice system is somehow getting things right, which we all know that's not really going to be something ironclad enough.
You know what's so sad is that they're already like attacking. There's actual media outlets already attacking the protesters outside. And guess what color they are? Boom. Day 1 of track meet killer Karmelo Anthony's trial begins, and obese women make a fool of themselves. I'm not sure what channel this is, but it's already going on. People are already talking mess. Let's go.
Trial. He is the track meet killer that killed Austin Metcalf in cold blood on April the 1st of last year. The track meet was going on, but there was a rain delay, and Karmelo Anthony decided, you know what? I'm going to go under another team's tent where I'm not supposed to be. He was asked to leave. He didn't want to leave. He was confronted. He says to Austin Metcalf, "Touch me and see what happens." He pulls out a knife, stabs Austin Metcalf in the heart. And Austin...
See what I'm talking about? See? Wrong. It wasn't a knife. It was the actual thing that you screw your shoe in with for the track meet. See? So people are already getting stuff wrong, got the wrong information on their channel saying the wrong stuff. Let's go.
Metcalf dies in his twin brother's arms. And Karmelo Anthony ran, and then he turned himself in to the police, and allegedly he says, I'm not alleged, I did it. Yeah, he's trying to claim self-defense, but guys, it's going to be hard for Karmelo Anthony.
Well, first of all, like, see the story, this guy is telling the story wrong. Because that's not what Karmelo Anthony said. He says, well, this should be considered self-defense, right? Because I got jumped. That's what he said. He didn't go up there and say, I did it, And if you're a cold-blooded killer, like, why would you, be running to the police and say, hey, is this it should be self-defense because I was being attacked. But he's making it seem like he was like, yeah, I did it. You see what I'm saying? So the media is already chaotic. They're already putting out false narratives, not having the whole story together. And because they want to be skewed toward one side, and it's like sad because these are high school students. These are not adults. So let's go.
Just to actually say, well, not to say, but actually prove that he actually killed Austin Metcalf in self-defense. Because what we know so far, guys, that wasn't the case. That was not the case. He wasn't supposed to be there. He didn't want to leave. And he initiated the threat. And that is what's going to...
He wasn't supposed to be where? On the track field? It's raining. He ducks under a thing for cover. He didn't just go over there just to be antagonistic. He was dodging the rain, sir. It was raining, and it rains pretty hard sometimes. It rains pretty hard in Texas, and you don't know whether a tornado about to kick in or what. I mean, it rains. It'll bust out raining. You know what I'm saying? You gotta duck for cover because it's wild. It'll be wild. So he went underneath the closest tent he could find, and they said you can't be here. And he's like, well, man, it's raining. Don't touch me. Touch me, and you'll see what happens. They probably was threatening him or whatever. We have to, it can't just be a one side. These are teenagers. Let's go.
Lead Karmelo Anthony to life in prison, in my opinion. But today was the first day. And the first day was jury selection. Yeah, and also it was a clown show outside of the courthouse where you actually have these woke black women out there dancing around, cheering for Karmelo Anthony, even though this man actually admitted to killing Austin Metcalf. Yes, he admitted to killing him. But these race hustlers are still out there supporting him.
Now, as you can see earlier in the video I just showed, it showed that there were also white nationalists on the other side of them with their things. But he's only going to cover the black women that are there to speak up for Karmelo Anthony. What about the white nationalists? They're okay. We need to do better as a people.
No one should be supporting the track meet killer, Karmelo Anthony. But let's go ahead and dive into this, guys. Here we go. So right over here on X, Sarah Fields. Now, she's definitely been covering Karmelo Anthony for over a year now. She actually went to the courthouse. And guys, this is going to be extremely hard for the woke activists to actually get access to this courtroom. She details all of the security and everything like that. Yeah, these activists, they're not getting inside this courtroom. Look at this. She writes, day one inside the Karmelo Anthony trial. I arrived at the Collin County Courthouse at approximately 6:30 a.m. for day one of the Karmelo Anthony trial. The first thing that became apparent was security. Everyone entering the courthouse had to pass through screening. Cell phones and electronic devices were prohibited. The only items I brought with me were a notepad, a pen, and my sunglasses. After passing through security, I made my way towards the courtroom area. The courthouse features a large, wide hallway leading to the jury assembly area. It was packed. There were so many potential jurors and members of the public present that you cannot see the end of the hallway. Just before reaching the jury assembly area, there's a left turn into the ceremonial courtroom, which serves as the public viewing room. It holds roughly 60 people in the gallery. We were among the first to arrive, but the doors were locked. Several members of the sheriff's department were stationed outside, I should say. One deputy was carrying a suppressed AR rifle chambered in 9mm. Yeah. So these activists, man, they better not play any games. Okay. So they actually have to wait and everything out there. But look here, it says several women who claim to be from California arrived wearing purple shirts, purple hoodies, jeans, and purple do-rags wrapped around their heads. Others wore tank tops, shorts, hoodies, baseball caps, and other casual attire that appeared inconsistent with what most people would consider courtroom business attire. Purple is Karmelo's favorite color. Yeah. And folks, we actually got some woke activists here on video making a fool of themselves.
Here we go with the woke thing. You know, so just because a person is trying to be an activist for Karmelo Anthony, they have to be a woke activist because they're wearing his favorite color. They have to be, these woke black and embarrassing themselves. You know, as this trial goes on, I'm sure you're going to see other activists on the other side as well. They just got there early. Let's go.
Outside cheering for Karmelo Anthony. Okay. This is pretty ridiculous, guys, tell you the truth. Yeah, we got these people right here, man. We actually got a bigger clip right here. The clown show was on full display outside the courtroom. Check this out. You can't make this up, man. You can't make this up. So
So what is wrong with that? Like, they were protesting, and that's what I mean. People, I mean, I remember when the immigrants and stuff in Minnesota were being attacked. People were wearing costumes and everything. When ICE was out, like, doing things, people were throwing dildos at the cars for ICE. But they just have a tambourine and they're doing a chant, and all of a sudden they're woke activists and they're embarrassing themselves and they're obese, and this is going to be a crazy trial, guys. And I hate to see it, but let's go any further. Let's hear what else he has to say.
it's also, so let me go back and play this again. Okay, so that's what they were saying. I declare, I decree Karmelo Anthony is free. Well, he ain't free. Even though he's out on bail right now, but this dude's guilty as hell. And you know what? They know that, but they don't care. They're out there looking at this as simply a racial issue. Basically, they're basically out there because Austin Metcalf is white.
But hold on. They're saying it's a racial issue, but why is the white nationalist on the other side? You're going to make it the black people. Well, they just think they make it into a racial issue, but then you have white nationalists on the whole other side for Austin Metcalf. So where's the coverage of that? It should be an equal thing. You know, they're just saying they think that he should be free. The other side is saying justice for Austin Metcalf. This is going to be a divide racially. It does not have to be a thing that because they are chanting and protesting that this now it has become a racial thing. They're saying that Karmelo Anthony is free. They're not saying that he's black and nothing like that. So Karmelo Anthony's a coward. Okay, he's going to prison. Period. He might, but that does not mean that the people that are speaking up for him are a bunch of woke activists. You know, I don't really get where we are coming from with this.
And these people are racist right here. This is the only reason why they're actually supporting Karmelo Anthony. These black women right here, that's the only reason why they're actually supporting him. Austin Metcalf, from what we actually know, didn't do anything to Karmelo Anthony.
What?
And Karmelo Anthony killed him in cold blood. And these women don't.
So he's acting like Karmelo Anthony just went over there and just stabbed the guy for no reason. Like there was not a whole scuffle that ensued. I mean, before he actually starts to discuss this, he needs to look at the. I mean, has he read anything about what the incident that went down? Man.
care. They do not care. Absolutely unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. So it was nothing more than
He was
a
being
jury
jumped.
selection
He
here.
was being jumped, guys.
Not exactly sure when.
So what happened is that he was being jumped by multiple people because it was raining, and he went underneath the opposing team's tent, or like a, say you have some bleachers and then you have like an over thing that's covering your team. He went to hide from the rain in their tent area, and they were like, "You gotta go. You can't be over here." And then it became a thing where they began to like kind of approach him like we're gonna remove you from here if you don't leave. And next thing you know, a fight ensued. I think he said, "Listen, don't touch me. If y'all touch me, see what happens." Something like that. And I guess they saw what happened. So now you have a deceased person. You have a young man that it might spend the rest of his life in prison. That was a good student. That was in track and field. He was not a bad kid. But they're gonna try to make him out and try to paint him into like this kind of gangster, and yes, Karmelo Anthony's black and he killed a white guy named Austin Metcalf, a white student. He was not being jumped. Well, was it a knife or was it his actual track thing to like adjust his track shoes? That's what not a knife. I don't know if it was a knife or not. Who knows? But I heard it was the actual thing to adjust the cleats on your track thing, and he stabbed him with that. But let's go.
The official first day of the trial is going to begin. Of course, they got to select the jury, seat the jury, that kind of thing. But boy, this is ridiculous right here, man. These people, man, these woke activists. And you know what? You could tell that the people don't like this because this post right here already got ratioed. Yeah, everybody's saying clearly murder. Yeah. This other person said, "You mean feral blacks who think it's okay to murder white kids?" Yeah, those women, they truly do believe it's okay to.
I mean, well, what happened to manslaughter? Like if you probably tried to defend yourself, but you end up actually going too far and killing the person. What about if you're in a scuffle? And that could be a case too of manslaughter. It's not a matter of always just straight up that he in cold blood just he intended to murder his assailant. Because what I understood is that there was a scuffle, there was a fight, that it wasn't just like he just started stabbing people. And see, this is what happens when you have the wrong, like people just like he's calling the people that are defending Karmelo Anthony racist because they're defending Karmelo Anthony is a child. He's a teenager.
Murder white people.
Wow.
Or they wouldn't be out there. Wow. Look at this right here. Reprehensible to see so many people out supporting a cold-blooded murderer who's on clear footage stabbing another person for no reason. It should be first-degree premeditated murder. He knew exactly what he was doing. The video, people have seen the video, and it's from a distance, of course, but it ain't looking good for Karmelo Anthony at all, based on the people that's actually seen that video.
Right, the people that's seen the video. So he haven't seen the video, but he's already saying that Austin Metcalf that Karmelo Anthony is a cold-blooded murderer. He ain't even seen the video. Have any of y'all seen the video? I don't know what the rules are. Is that the rule? Period. Rain or shine, snowing, hailing, you just can't duck for cover if it's raining. These are children, like in a track meet. Like, I don't get it. And people are forgetting these are kids, y'all.
Maybe one day, guys, we'll actually get to see the video. We have to see, but of course, the trial is not going to be televised. It's going to be extremely hard to even see members of the jury once they actually select them when this trial is going on. Now, after the trial, I'm pretty sure, jurors are probably going to come out. They may end up giving interviews and stuff like that. That's possible. But this judge has that courtroom locked down. You can't bring in a cell phone, camera, nothing. We're going back to the old days, man. No cameras, nothing. These woke activists, yeah, they can be out there. But those people, man, those lunatics have to know that Karmelo Anthony is going down. But
well, if he does go down, at least he knows that there were some people that, you know, supported him in his going down. But to say that they're woke activists versus they could be family members, they could be anybody supporting him, probably can't get into the courtroom. So they, you know, maybe they're a part of a group, like a community group. They don't have to be woke activists. Everybody wants to use the word woke the wrong way anyway. Like, what happened to like the original version of what woke means? Come on now.
that's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this?
What I think is that, you know, it's interesting how people will try to skew things. I don't know if he might be getting paid off to start talking this rhetoric. Sometimes people will take that side because, you know, they probably get kickbacks for saying stuff like that. Like, it's crazy. Let's go.
Same people that believe the restaurant workers were in the right for beating up that lady are the same people who ironically believe that Karmelo Anthony was in the wrong. With that being said, I would not elaborate.
What I want people to walk into this expecting is a by the books trial. If you get anything else, if you get anything extraordinary, if you get anything that's a spectacle, it might come from outside of the courtroom where you have agitators trying really hard to prove either white people are being targeted or black people are being targeted. And those people are nothing more but comedy fodder for us. They're not really substantial inside of the courtroom. The courtroom is where you're going to have to see evidence being brought to the forefront. And because you have all these outside factors making everything fucking stupid, they've made it to where you won't be seeing it live streamed. You won't see it on court TV. You won't see it on Law and Crime Network because you've had so many people making it something that it's not, trying to transform it into one big spectacle. Some motherfuckers are itching for a George Floyd 2.0. Some motherfuckers are out there demanding that the whites stand up. They're turning it into this big ass spectacle, and it's been shut down because a lot of you motherfuckers are not trustworthy with information.
So greetings, everybody. Thank you for being out here. My name is Melina, and I organize with Black Lives Matter Grassroots. I'm grateful to be in coalition with everybody. And, you know, we know we're here to represent and to support and to have the back of Karmelo Anthony, who could be any of our sons, any of our brothers. One of the things that we are not downplaying is that this is absolutely a racist ass case, right? So one of the things that we noticed with media is they're acting like they're asking questions about why does this have to be a black and white issue? You made it a black and white issue, right? If he were a little white boy defending himself from some bullies, there would be no trial, right? So we want to make sure that we know that black people, I know I'm speaking to the choir, right? That black people, we ride for each other.
And that's how we ended up here. And we're having to wait on our...
But hold on, because there was also white people that were saying the same thing as well. We forget that John Lane went up there and he had a whole, he tried to make a whole protest before the trial even began. So it is a lot of outlying people that are trying to make this into a racial thing, which it really was just a bunch of kids and things got out of hand. You know, it was a rival team. Things got out of hand. And Frisco is kind of known, you know, for I think both teams were were very heavy rivals of each other. I don't know what they're going to say, but it's very interesting how everything has become. You have especially a lot of black commentators that are immediate to jump on the other side and look down on black people that are trying to show some support. So you think that nobody should have showed Karmelo any support? Meanwhile, the white nationalist group are there. There's a whole white nationalist group out there waiting for something to go down. Let's go.
Hands and knees to see how this court proceeding is going to play out. They say it's probably going to be 2 weeks, and that's going to be a long, excruciating 2 weeks for a bunch of people because they're desperate to see every waking second of every minute of the hour as it goes on, while I'm just sitting here waiting to see how it all plays out and what gets brought up, what conversations are had, and what witnesses either prove his innocence in self-defense or prove that he needs to be in jail. And that's how we reach a conclusion where somebody's going to cheer and somebody's going to complain. Somebody's going to say that the justice system got it right, and another is going to say that the justice system is corrupt. And when we reach that point, all we got to do, as I said in the last video, is put them motherfuckers in those categories, because we know it's going to happen. We know it's going to play out like that. It's going to be people in denial about what truths come out and what witnesses have to say and whatever evidence else comes up, because as I said in the last video, while it was cold as fuck for him to respond that it wasn't anything alleged and that he did it, that might bite him in his ass when he gets in that courtroom, Karmelo Anthony. It might be something used against him. And I don't know how smart it was to be as brutally honest at the time, but we shall see, because anybody saying, oh, it'll be definitive he's guilty, it'll be definitive he's not guilty, I would recommend just waiting a little bit, see how these 2 weeks play out, see what's said, see what evidence is reportedly brought up, and then as we get closer and closer to that guilty or not guilty, that will maybe be the moment you decide how you want to navigate this. Because I'd hate for somebody to be so fucking animated and then they're wrong, and then they got to go to the next step of trying to make everybody realize that this was a cheated system and it's corrupt, because they ignore the evidence and the witness statements that are brought up. They're
Exactly. I'm not gonna be on one side or the other. You know, I want to hear what's brought to the table with the case. You know, this is not about race for me. These are two kids that got into an unfortunate event. Things escalated. They're both two young men that things went too far. You know, I don't look at it as a white boy and a black boy. But you know what we are talking about is the judicial system. And a lot of times, because of the fact that we've had so much things go on, that the first thing that people jump to is race. But I really believe that, you know, these are two kids, man. It is unfortunate that some young man's life was taken, and another young man's life could also be taken. Well, his life is taken. He can't, like, he had scholarships all down the drain. Everything that he had, like imagine being a parent. And you have a kid and he's in all this sports and this, that, the other. He's getting straight A's. You're thinking he's going to go to college and get a full ride and probably end up in the Olympics for track and field or whatever different athletic programs he was a part of, full ride to different colleges. And now, instead of him doing that, he's in the prison. He's facing life in prison. So, and then he's killed someone. I'm sure that is like weighing on his mind, that he replays that every day. We can't pretend like he's just as cold-blooded as the other commentator said, killer, like that they said. First thing he said was it was self-defense, right? Because he didn't even know how to, if he was a real killer, he would know not to talk to police. He would be asking for, he would have just kept his mouth shut and asked for his lawyer, you know? Because most people that are really into crime like that, they know what to do when it comes down to like the police and talking to them. Both families will probably lose their son's life in a, yeah, exactly. So this is not a fun trial and anything like that. He didn't have a mark on him. Okay, well, he was able to defend himself pretty well, even though he was being, from what I understood, they said that he was being attacked by multiple people to get it from underneath whatever thing, you know. I don't know. I didn't see the video. They say there's a video out there. I haven't seen it. So I'm just going off hearsay just like everybody else. I don't know what the real thing is. We'll find out during the trial, but I would hate to make speculation so quickly.
Probably talk about how witnesses were paid to say this story or that story, and who knows what the story is, because that's at the end. And I would hate for motherfuckers to miss the beginning and the middle because they're so focused on crafting their own version of events based on an ending that they haven't even gotten yet. I know there's going to be people every single solitary day for these next 2 weeks, even if that it's longer, making all these updates. And this is what happened in the courtroom today. This is what happened in the courtroom today. I'm not really interested in doing that. I would only want something in the realm of actual information that's substantial in swinging the decision either to guilty or not guilty, or some bombastically stupid motherfucker trying to break into the court hearings just so that they could get a little bit of attention. That's really what I'm here for. I will be there and looking at how this process goes on, but
How do I feel about Karmelo Anthony having a knife before in school? I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I haven't heard about that. But if he did, I'm not sure what the reason behind that was, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if he was being bullied or he felt like he needed to defend himself because he was being bullied. We don't know what would make a person bring a knife to school. Like, why would they do that? And then risk all the things he has going for himself. Because from what I understood is that Karmelo Anthony was not, he was like, I think a very a good student. Like, he wasn't just this hood kid that was, why would a person that has everything going for themselves bring a knife to school? Why would a person feel threatened like this? Yeah, can't get the transcripts. Yeah, it's a lot going on. They're keeping things tight-lipped, very tight. But hopefully we'll be able to get some information from the media. Both were good athletes, exactly. And I think they were rivals. So that's another thing. You have a rivalry and things go too far. Let's go.
Coming back and being like, this happened and that happened, that's not too interesting. I want to just compile it all into one finite big bubble. That way, I don't have to keep coming back to it. And I could just call whoever fits the category of stupid, and then I could say subscribe at the end of it all. And that's my process. And I would really like to stick to it.
Well, shouts out. That's his process. But, hey, I'm going to be covering it because it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing unfolds. I think it might be very much a shit show, and I'm going to be here for it.
So we have just wrapped up day one at the Collin County Courthouse for the Karmelo Anthony murder trial. As you can see, that is the courthouse in the back of me. And when I tell you it has been a long day, please believe me, this is what we're looking at. They had over 600 individuals to show up today for jury selections. Collin County, you showed out and did your thing for both. This is good for both sides, right? For both the state, the prosecution, and the defense team. Here's the thing. We didn't get a lot of movement on that. We were almost 4 hours delayed today. So what's happening is they were able to narrow it down to 500 people. They're going to come back on Wednesday morning if they are confirmed. They will be either confirmed or denied. If they are confirmed, they come back 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday. It's going to be a very long day. Interesting enough, listen, there was some white males on the jury or that stood as potential jurors that did not agree with the judge about the law. And they said, you're talking about the law and we understand the law, but this country has a complicated history when it comes to law because our law has been very unfair to people of color. Woo! All right, y'all. So we have just wrapped up day one at the Collin County Courthouse for the Karmelo.
Right. So let me tell you about how this jury thing has gotten really crazy, right? They're saying that there's actually some juror tampering. Let's go.
Okay, we're just going to get right into it. Now, many of you may know Sarah Fields. She's primarily over on X.com. She's been the journalist who has been exposing 90% of the things that we've learned and that have come out from the shadows about this whole case and all the nefarious things going on in the Karmelo Anthony trial and case since it happened. Okay, so make sure you go to check in with her and credit to her. Now, she says she's actually a local to that area, and she tweeted, whatever you call it, on X. She says, day one of the Karmelo Anthony trial is in the books. I just left the Collin County Courthouse. Today was devoted entirely to jury selection, and no other proceedings took place. That being said, I have quite a few observations from inside the courtroom and some very descriptive scenes to paint from what I witnessed today. And so a bit of a time later, and this is pretty wild but not unexpected given how hostile all the Karmelo Anthony Army members are. Day one inside the Karmelo Anthony trial, I arrived at the Collin County Courthouse approximately 6:30 a.m. for day one of the trial. The first thing that became apparent was security, of course. Everyone entering the courthouse had to pass through screening. Cell phones, electronic devices were all prohibited. The only items I brought with me were a notepad, a pen, and my sunglasses. After passing through security, I made my way toward the courtroom area. The courthouse features a large, wide hallway leading to the jury assembly area. It was packed. There were so
a lot of times it's because of that those jails are full and they don't have room to hold all of the people that are up there for trial. They have to like make room. So a lot of times you might see a lot of the black people. Okay, well, there's in those Democratic cities probably have a very large black community that are up for crime, and they have to choose which one is the most important one because they don't have enough room to hold everybody, you know. So it's not always because of they're black. It just because listen, you know, we have to like choose the lowest common denominator, and we can't keep everybody. So we have to like get it. Like I said, people are wanting to jump into race immediately. That's the problem. Everybody wants to make it 100% race. Yeah, let them out because how can you keep if you're arresting 30 to 40 people a day? Where are you going to house all these people? You're going to have to let some people go. Either on their own recognizance, either because it's called pre-trial, whatever. I think it's called pre-trial thing, where if you have only one charge and you're not like a repeat offender, they'll let you go. There's different reasons why they do that. It's not always about race. So let's stop with the race baiting stuff. Let's go.
many potential jurors and members of the public present that you could not see the end of the hallway. Wow. Yeah, I guess I should have expected that, you know. I guess I'm not too surprised, but it's just insane. Just before reaching the jury assembly area, there is a left turn into the ceremonial courtroom, which serves as the public viewing room. It holds roughly 60 people in the gallery. We were among the first to arrive, but the doors were locked. Several members of the sheriff's department were stationed outside. One deputy was carrying a suppressed AR rifle chambered in 9mm.
Wow.
Honestly, good, because you don't even know what these deranged supporters are going to be trying to pull during this trial or after.
You know what's so crazy is he's talking about like the Karmelo Anthony supporters, but we have to go to Chud the Builder. We had John Lane jump up and say some wild stuff during the case with him, and he haven't even gone to trial yet. He's just trying to get his sentence, get his whole thing together, his court date together, and they were already in there while enduring that. So we cannot always blame it and say it's the supporters of the Karmelo Anthony. People like, listen, the white nationalists have equal footing in getting into a courtroom and acting a fool. So we need to cut it out with the black versus white.
The verdict. While we waited, a heavyset man wearing a Hawaiian shirt, classic, repeatedly stared in our direction. At one point, he sat very close to us. As he walked past me, he quietly said the word, demon. As more people arrived, the crowd continued to grow. Several women who claimed to be from California arrived wearing purple shirts, purple hoodies, jeans, and purple do-rags wrapped around their heads. Boy, you sure are making this guy look like a class act. The grimace.
How is other people coming to support him, making him look a certain way? They're coming to support him. He don't know who they are. What is going on?
Hey, what are y'all from McDonald's? Where's Ronald at? Bunch of clowns. Others wore tank tops, shorts, hoodies, baseball caps.
It's hot. It's 90 degrees, 90 something degrees. It feels like 110 in Texas right now. Have you been in Texas? Yeah. They're wearing shorts. I don't know about the hoodies. I don't know why they're wearing hoodies. That's crazy. But anyways.
And other casual attire that appeared inconsistent with what most people would consider courtroom business attire. And in parentheses, it says purple is Karmelo's favorite color. Well, good gosh, isn't that sweet? We don't care. And, I'm not surprised. I mean, these are people who are in support of Karmelo, someone who his entire family frauds and schemes and scams and steals and murders, doesn't follow rules, has no respect for anyone's family or loved ones or just the right to live on this earth. The last thing they're going to care about is, I'll just throw on a wife beater and some basketball shorts. Might go barefoot. Who cares, right?
Wow.
The tension in the hallway was palpable. You could almost cut it with a knife. At approximately 8:52 a.m., I approached one of the deputies and asked how seating was going to work. My concern was that if no line was formed, people would rush the entrance once the doors opened. Absolutely. Valid. His response surprised me. He said, "I'm really going into this just as blind as you are." Golly. That's the main reason I didn't fly down to Texas to be there on scene as she was, because I'm not going to jail in Texas, man. At that point, I made the executive decision to start a line myself. I walked to the front near the security table where purses were being checked and planted my feet. The hallway against the wall became shoulder to shoulder. Most of the individuals rushing forward appeared to be Karmelo Anthony supporters. It was a tense moment. People were packed together so tightly that it became slightly nerve-wracking. I did not move. When the doors finally opened, I was among the first 10 to 15 people admitted into the courtroom. Lucky. That's what you get when you show up bright and early. Good for her. I immediately made my way to the front row, and then we waited for another hour and a half. At one point, members of the public seated in the front were asked to move because family needed those seats, so we complied. The situation raised questions in my mind. Why were family members being mixed in with the public seating area? I waited to see who the seats were being reserved for, but shortly afterward, deputies informed us that we could move back because they had decided to seat the family somewhere else. Not long after, someone informed me those gathered in the room that the viewing screens would likely not be turned on. Jury selection was not really happening in a way that the public would find eventful. Jurors were being given packets, completing paperwork, and being screened for eligibility. At that point, I decided to walk around the courthouse. As I exited the courtroom, I encountered a Karmelo Anthony supporter and TikTok creator, John Effect is what he goes by. He recognized me immediately. We spoke briefly and shook hands. He was professionally dressed and respectful during our interaction. Well, nice and honest. I appreciate that. After meeting John and walking out of the courtroom area, I passed directly by Dominique Alexander. Oh boy, good Lord have mercy. He saw me, but he said nothing. In fact, he almost seemed perplexed as I walked past. He's starstruck. He's starstruck, Sarah. All that beefing he's tried to do with you. He's starstruck. A short time later, I witnessed sheriff's deputies escorting an African-American woman out of the courthouse hallway. She was wearing a pink shirt with lace sleeves. Deputies were accusing her of jury tampering. Oh, Lord have mercy. Here we go already. We're not even 3 hours into this thing, and we got jury tampering. I later learned she was allegedly connected to the Anthony family and had reportedly been caught recording members of the jury pool.
Wow.
This is ridiculous. I mean, good for them for catching her, but oh my God. I mean, what if there's someone they don't catch? I later learned she was allegedly connected to the Anthony family and had reportedly been caught recording. I'm repeating. Outside the courthouse, the atmosphere was just as interesting. Several supporters of Karmelo Anthony were live streaming on TikTok and wearing Karmelo-themed shirts. Oh, I would have loved to see them shirts. Karmelo-themed shirts. Oh, Lord have mercy. I would have loved to see them. goobers.
I don't either. I'm like,
There were also multiple members of the Black Panther.
see, here's nothing is that a lot of gossiping is going to be going on because the court is so tight. So it's going to be very hard to differentiate truth from fact. You're going to have one side that's going to be telling like the lies. You know, I think this Sarah Fields person is going to be their source of like news. I'm going to probably go between her and Naked Night. I'm going to be covering the stuff that they're saying, but I'm also going to be covering Naked Night because she's going to be fair and honest. She's not there to choose a side. And that's why I'm even covering her take on things, you know, because yeah, it's just like, come on now.
Movement present. Oh boy. In addition, a group calling itself the National Organization for Victim Advocacy was distributing flyers featuring Austin Metcalf's photograph. The flyers stated that the organization stood in solidarity with all victims of anti-white violence. When I asked Jeff
Okay, so there you go. That is the white nationalist group, anti-white violence. So you have people on Karmelo Anthony's side, and then you have the white nationalist side, you know, that are saying that this is a black on white crime. So where is the outrage of that? It's passing out flyers and all this other nonsense.
Cap about the group, he told me he did not know who they were. By approximately 11 a.m., we decided to leave. Nothing was taking place inside the viewing courtroom. The screens remained off. There were no proceedings being shown to the public.
I haven't heard
Day one ultimately consisted of juror processing, questionnaires, and administrative matters. From a courtroom perspective, it was largely uneventful. I figured it would be. But then again, from a courtroom perspective, yes. But on the other hand, I just thought, I cannot imagine what type of groups and movements and signs and chants and merch of this doofus is going to be out there. So I had to check up on it and let you guys know. From an observational perspective, however, it was interesting. And at least one individual was escorted out over allegations of jury tampering. I will return Wednesday for the continuation of jury selection. Okay. So nothing going on.
Allegations. So she has not been actually like charged with it, but it was people are, you know, like I said, heard it through the grapevine. Well, it looks like she had some jury tampering. I haven't heard of this is the only thing I've heard about jury tampering was this one right here.
Tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're back at it. So tune in. You know, I'll give you all the recaps. Hopefully by then the pool will have been narrowed significantly and the process of selecting the final jurors will begin in earnest. Based on my observation throughout the morning, the crowd appeared to be overwhelmingly around 95% Karmelo supporters. Man, you hate to see it.
All she's doing is making a call out for more other white nationalists to come up there to support Austin Metcalf. And that's okay. You know, he should have support. So should Karmelo Anthony. But I don't get it why everybody's like, oh, these people, how dare they support this young man? So he shouldn't have no support. He shouldn't have no support. Like, what are we doing here? I'd rather throw hands, even if I got jumped, rather than. Well, I don't think that was his intent to kill the guy. I don't think that he meant to kill this guy. He said it was self-defense. Let's go.
You hate to see it, but once again, kudos to Sarah Fields, because even with, I mean, that being the case, that's sad. If it's give or take roughly 95% Karmelo supporters, and Sarah Fields is still there.
It's just the beginning of the trial. Trust me, it is going to be more people going to come. Trust me. When they read what she says, they're booking their flights now. Trust me.
So where y'all can see that it says Collin County. Behind, my uncle is behind the camera, y'all. Holding it down. Because yesterday my tripod was moving every which away. So today I was trying to make sure it wasn't so flimsy. But anyway, so yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on so far. Yeah, I really don't have much. I wanted to have more for you guys once I start hearing, you know, what questions they're going to be asking, when I start hearing like what you know, what they're fishing for as far as the jury, then I'll keep you guys updated. But make sure you put your notifications on, because I'm going to be here covering this case, giving you guys all the ins and the outs of it. You said, is there a crowd? So behind the camera, there is people like at the end of the parking lot, a few people. And then there were like, you know, people here, but they went inside. The gallery for the courtroom that we are in is pretty big. It's one of the biggest like courtrooms that I've been in. So it's very spacious.
And as she said, is that there's nothing else going on but that case there. They're not doing any other cases because they need to make sure that that whole courthouse is locked down. That is how serious this could get, you know, where you have people race baiting and stuff like that. Let's go.
And comfortable, I might add. The seats are very comfortable inside. So that's that. Let's see what else I wanted to talk to you guys about. I'm gonna definitely do a very extensive breakdown of the case. Those of you guys who
I'm gonna just go ahead and jump to her breakdown, because you know, like everybody's really talking about like what Sarah Field says, but she's gonna break this whole thing down. Let's go into it.
do some things. We're going to get on into this gig. So if you guys do not know, like I said, we're going to be talking about Karmelo Anthony and the trial and everything of the things. But before I give you guys some of the background scoop and some of the information, let's just break down how this trial came about, what is going on, what happened, what is alleged, and so on and so forth. So first off, at the time that this happened, he was 17 years old and he was at a school track meet. Now, he is 19 years old now, and the victim in the case, Austin Metcalf, was 17 years old as well. So it says, the following. Okay, hold on. Let me see some of these notes that I jotted down. All right. So this case, if you guys remember, and what I want to continue to emphasize as I do my coverage, is there is a lot of racial tension surrounding this case. You see a lot of racists being extremely racist, and it is showing with this case. This case turned from a tragedy to something that has been creating a racial divide. There are influencers and bloggers on Facebook that are further trying to create this divide. They're trying to rage bait. They're trying to, you know, send out lynch mobs and skewing facts and truth and skewing the information crazy. Okay. Like even today, I saw reports that were completely fabricated and far from what actually happened. And that is what happens in these cases when some people are motivated by, you know, those racist dollars clock in. As you guys see, when Chud the Builder did his whole thing where he was antagonizing Black people, and then he went around and effed around and ended up shooting a guy and shooting himself. They poured in the dough, okay? A lot of them poured in the dough. His crowdfunding rose up. So there's also individuals who are covering this trial with the same similar motivation, skew the truth, make everything seem like the most bizarre as it pertains to Black people so that those dollars can come in. And
thank you. And it's also Black reporters that are like really trying to jump on the bandwagon of like dissing the Black people for supporting Karmelo Anthony. I don't see no one saying anything about the white nationalist group, the KKK, and all whoever's coming out for that, the Nazis. No one is talking about what they're doing because they, you know, I guess they're not like yet. They haven't got to like tripping yet. You know what I'm saying? But as this trial goes on, I can guarantee you it's gonna get heated. Let's go.
so therefore, you have people like me who I'm not here on either side. I'm just here to report the facts and report them factually as they happen. If there was something that happened that was a positive for Karmelo, I'm going to say it. If there was something that doesn't look good for him, I'm going to say it. As you guys know,
that's why I'm using her for the coverage for this, because and I'm hoping that Watching the World will be there too. My friend Mel Smith will be there, because between him and her, I will use those people to cover it, because they're not going to be biased about it. It's not about race. You know, a lot of Black people are using this to build their platform up by seeming like they're on the the bandwagon of that this guy, he's a cold-blooded killer and murderer, and let's stop it. He's a teenager, 17 years old, at a track meet that something very tragic happened, very unfortunate, and we need to focus on that, not race, and not starting a whole race war about it. Let's go.
there has not been a lot of information released about this case. There was an initial police report that we can go off of, but early on into the case, the judge issued a gag order. He issued a very strict gag order to where Karmelo's family is not supposed to be making statements. The Metcalf family is not supposed to be making statements. The lawyers or anybody that is a witness of the case or involved are under a very strict gag order to where they cannot speak out. They cannot make interviews. They cannot talk about the case. So there are people who are trying to create, you know, what they presume to be the truth, and it's disgusting. So we're going to stick to the facts and that alone. So let's get into some of the background for those of you guys who don't even know who Karmelo is, if you never heard of the case, if you don't know anything about it. So according to the police report of the case, a dispute breaks out over the seating arrangements under the tent. So basically what happened was there was a storm, and there was a storm at this track meet. It was around 10 a.m. at the David Q. Kendall Stadium in Frisco, Texas. It's the District 11 Track and Field Championship. It was a massive event, but the weather took a turn, and it was heavy rain and thunderstorms. And they had like these tents set up where people can sit under the tents. So because of the storm, athletes were packing under whatever shelter they can find. And Karmelo Anthony, a standout student athlete and a team captain from Centennial High School, he ended up under another team's tent. But it wasn't his team's tent. It belonged to the Frisco Memorial High School tent. So inside that tent was Austin Metcalf, who was a junior and MVP linebacker for Memorial, along with his twin brother, Hunter. So according to the police report, it says a dispute broke out over the seating arrangements under the tent. Hunter Metcalf tells Anthony that he needs to leave their team's area. Austin steps in, and a confrontation goes from 0 to 100 real quick. So it says witnesses say it was a rapid back and forth verbal argument. Per the affidavit, it says Anthony allegedly says, "Touch me and see what happens," while reaching his hand into his backpack. So clearly at this point, it's a storm happening. Okay. So it's not like he's just under a tent just because he wants to be under somebody's tent. There's a storm happening. It's raining. It's pouring outside. And Karmelo Anthony goes under a tent like, okay, I see a tent. Let me get some shelter. And according to the police report, the twin brothers of the other one was like giving the "boy, you gonna get up out of here" rhetoric. And he basically was, standing his ground, and they got into an argument. So from that argument, things continue to escalate and go further. So it says, one of the witnesses say it was, like I said, a rapid, back and forth verbal argument. And that's when he said, "Touch me to see what happens," while reaching in his backpack. Austin pushes Anthony on the bleachers. Anthony responds, punch me and see what happens. Austin pushes him again to get him out the tent. Okay. In a split second, Anthony pulls a black knife from his backpack and stabs Austin once directly in the chest. Anthony flees the scene immediately while Austin runs down the bleachers, clutching his chest, shouting for help. Despite athletic.
Okay, well, I stand corrected. So he did stab him with a knife. I got the wrong information, so I can admit when I'm wrong. Okay. From what I had told, it was like a cleat thing that you like use to like put your cleats in. So okay, I was wrong. So it was a knife. Okay, didn't know that. All right, that's
athletic trainers and first responders performing CPR and administering blood right there on the field. Austin tragically passed away shortly after arriving at the hospital, and it was reported that he died in his twins' arms. Now, let's take a fast forward through how we got to the courtroom today, because the legal path has been chaotic. So the arrest, it says, Karmelo Anthony, he surrendered to authorities shortly after the stabbing. Before he is even officially questioned, he tells the arresting officer, I was protecting myself. He asks if Metcalf is going to survive and if it can be considered self-defense. He was charged as an adult because in the state of Texas, when you are 17 and there is this type of crime, they charge the individual as an adult. So he was charged as an adult with first-degree murder, and his bond was set at $1 million. Now, that's where a judge by the name of, what was her name again? Hold on. Anyways, a judge presiding over the case, which was a Black woman, she decided to reduce his bond, being that he did not have any priors as far as like a prior record. He was in school. I believe that he was like on the honor roll. He was allegedly, according to what was put out there, a good kid. And so the judge decided to reduce his bond to $250,000. Now, once she reduced his bond, there was a lot of backlash. Okay, there was a lot of backlash. Judge Angela Tucker had to completely, call out all of these things. Let me pull up an article that talks about how she was doxxed, how people threatened her, they gave her death threats, and so on and so forth. Now, as you guys know, whenever there is a judge that considers bond and what's appropriate, they always go off of the prior history and prior bad acts. If that individual does not have a bunch of prior bad acts, they have all of these things like they do like this balancing scale. They determine whether or not this person is a danger to society. They weigh the evidence, they look at the case, and this judge decided that he was not a danger to society, and he was allowed to get a $250,000 bond. Now, once he got this bond, like I said, people started to dox her. Hold on one second. I had the link up, but where
I think
did
that
it go? Where did it
go?
Okay, hold on. Let's just pull it up again.
If I'm not mistaken, that Sarah Fields lady,
Angela, get
or her audience or something like that. Yeah. So
let's see, what is this?
North Texas is home. That's why doing this work.
All right, one second. Let's see if this video explains it. If not, I'll read what it says.
Roy Whitaker, I just put the link in the chat. If you want to come up and speak, you can. You're more than welcome.
County judge.
All right, let me share this for you guys so that you guys can get a background of what is going on in this case and the lengths that people will go. If you would dox a judge, what would you do?
She's overseeing the trial of a teenager accused of killing another student in Frisco. Jobin Panikkar talks to a former judge about the security issues judges face.
When private information goes public, it is a problem. In this case, a judge's private information. Add to that a case that has made national headlines after a Frisco student allegedly stabs and kills another at a track meet. Collin County told us earlier this month about a possible case of doxing involving the judge, Angela Tucker, who lowered the defendant Karmelo Anthony's bond, allowing him to bond out and go into house arrest.
The fact that she and her family are being made to endure what they are as a result of being doxxed because she simply did her job as she was supposed to, it sickens me. And it angers me.
Scott Becker was once a judge in Collin County for 8 years in the 219th. Now he's an attorney, and he tells us what we've been reporting for a while, that cases are assigned to judges by random.
I wonder if the controversy is because Judge Tucker is an African American and the defendant is also African American. I wonder if the judge who made that decision, if they looked like me, if there would be the same amount of outrage and conspiracy theories out there.
Scott is also familiar with being the subject of threats, but admits nothing like what Judge Tucker may be experiencing. He says there are certain protections judges have. They can use state official license plates over personal ones.
On your driver's license, judges are allowed by law to list the courthouse as their home address. I did not want anybody being able to know anything more about my personal life.
Scott even had Google blur his home and kept his address private. He says the job comes with security risks, and that job is too important to be swayed by intimidation.
All right. So as you can see, there was people who went as far as to dox the judge. Now, this is a person who is in charge of the balancing act, and they were so brazen that they doxed her information. They sent her death threats, and there was a lot about this that was very unsettling to me and to a lot of people who was viewing what was going on.
So you have some media people that are getting mad because there are people there dressed in purple to support Karmelo Anthony. But how many of those people were doxing judges, threatening their lives? I mean, that I don't think that these people were doing that, but they got mad because they were just there in support, banging drums for Karmelo Anthony. I think it's interesting.
Now, it's stated also that amidst all the outside political groups trying to use this tragedy to fuel a race war, Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff Metcalf, stands up and completely condemns the outside agitators. All right. So it says, all right. So, let me go back up to this. Okay. So it says, all right. So he bonded out under a strict house arrest with an ankle monitor and a total ban on social media. So he was totally banned. He cannot say a thing on social media. He can't defend himself. He can't say anything. Total ban. No social media. So it says this move sparks absolute fury online and on the ground. The case becomes deeply polarized along racial lines. Anthony is Black. Metcalf is white. Crowdfunding campaigns raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for both sides. Okay. The backlash gets so intense that the judge, when she was doxxed, Anthony's family received also severe death threats, and the court eventually has to approve moving Anthony to an undisclosed location for his own safety.
So just so we're clear, she said in the beginning she's not going to take a side. She's talking on both sides. She's saying what's happened on Anthony's side and also on Metcalf's side. So she's not going to be biased toward any side, and that's why I chose her as the source that we're going to get the information from.
Amidst all the outside political groups trying to use this tragedy to fuel a race war, Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff Metcalf, he wanted to condemn the outside agitators and saying that he doesn't condone anyone trying to create a racial divide, which is ironic, being that the main person who is saying that they are a spokesperson and they are like speaking on behalf of the family is the main person creating this racial divide and trying to make things as political, as racial, as deplorable as possible, even skewing the events that happened today, you know? So that's ironic. I don't know if he was genuine or performative, but hey, that's what it is. So before we get into, you know, the self-defense and first degree murder and all of those things, I'm going to take a pause and just let you guys know about my journey to covering this case and coming to cover the trial. Now, what I saw online before I came to Texas was a lot of people who wanted to have one voice, only one narrative, and the narrative did not seem balanced. It did not seem fair, and it did not seem fact-based. It seemed to be based on rage baiting, racial division, and it seemed based on everything else other than the facts of the case. Being that I'm a person who has covered several trials, from the Tory Lanez trial to the T.I. and Tiny OMG Dolls trial to the Diddy trial to the ASAP Rocky trial, I have had all of the major publications cover my reporting from each trial that I have covered. I have landed in, you know, documentaries for my coverage in the R. Kelly case. I landed in documentaries on my coverage of the carbonation cult case. And I think that me being on CNN at the Diddy trial, along with all of the other accolades that I have received from covering trials, proves that, hey, we're going to stick to the facts over here. So if you want to go where, you know, people are going to just be making up stuff, trying to make themselves be, you know, a particular way because they have an agenda for them crowdfunding funds, then hey, there's a place and a home for that on this case. But, you know, over here, I want to come and speak what I actually see. But being that I saw that there was so much of intimidation, people trying to silence people, them doxing the judge, I wanted to make sure that I was safe as far as, you know, making sure that I had people there with me at the trial, like as the trial commences. And this was the first time that I, you know, took extra measures to make sure, you know what I'm saying, I was good. I'll just say that. Yeah, so even my coverage on this, you can see the comments, like without even looking at the profile and seeing the race of the person, you can kind of discern what race they are by what they say, because the tone and the vitriol is different. Like there are some people who are Black who feel as though, you know, he should have never had a knife at the fight at the track meet, and he should have never stabbed Austin, and they feel like he's guilty. But when you see,
I did see that. It wasn't his father. It was some media PR firm that did that. It wasn't his father. So that's another. See, people need to like do the research and learn more information. People are just going off of like whatever. It wasn't his father that did that. It was actually the people, the PR firm that the family for some reason had gotten involved with, that had began to he was doing too much. And I think even Charleston White got involved with the whole thing. And I actually did an interview with him, and that whole thing got heated about this. So let's go.
Those people expressing their feelings about it or saying, you know, hey, I think he's guilty and here's why, the tone is completely different from those who are like falling into this racial trap of, you know, put them back in the cotton fields type of energy. You can tell the difference. And without me even looking at the profile picture, sometimes I'll just like scan the comment and I can already tell like, all right, we already see what this is given. We already see what like this is, you know? But let's take a step back from even that, because like I said, it was a journey to even.
I think that was a huge mistake. Like I said, it was mainly, like I said, that because the guy that was actually supposedly, I don't even know why they hired this guy. they didn't have a lawyer clearly that was that they didn't have a lawyer clearly that was worth 2 cents initially, because they should have never did that. That whole thing should have never happened. That was terrible, you know. And whatever that group was, this was supposedly like, you know, doing PR for the family, that was a mess. So yeah, let's go.
Cover this. And shout out to my background. Y'all like my background? I had to bring it to this right here is an orange couch. Okay. We had to come with the orange couch realness. If you know, you know. This is my early beginnings. When I was on YouTube, I would sit on or in front of an orange couch with my green screen in back of me. I would do my commentary, but I decided to bring the feel of the orange couch back, bring my new updated background, and get to business. Okay, we are here on business. All right, period. And if you guys have
Police are investigating the attempted doxing of a Collin County judge.
No, it didn't just auto play. Like, where we do that at? Where we do that at? Like, what? Hold on. We're not just auto playing like that. Like, you don't get to do that. But anyways, all right. So, anyways, yeah. So we're here on business. Before I forget, because I go on tangents. Okay. And
I'm gonna say this is that if you're gonna leave, you don't have to make an announcement. Just leave. What's the point of making an announcement? I've heard enough of this BS. I'm leaving. Okay, well, just leave. You have to like make an announcement you're leaving.
Let me get her name correct, because we're gonna get into some things. Okay, we're gonna get into some things. We are gonna get into some things. Okay, Shaquila. Okay, this is a sweet Miss Keela. Okay, Shaquila. Thank you so much for my goodie bag. Let me tell y'all real quick. Sorry. That was nice and thoughtful of her. So back to business. All right. So it was a journey getting here. Okay. It was a journey getting here. And speaking of, somebody said it's expensive covering cases, boots on the ground. It absolutely is. Okay. And if you guys want to donate, y'all know y'all can. I have a new Cash App. It is Neek at Night Media. All right. Because everything that we do.
Definitely support her and her, you know, being at the trial. Give her some support. Much love to that.
More about something else. So I wanted to cover a case that I did not announce on my channel, that I did not tell anybody about, that I just went and just popped up boots on the ground. So I started my thinking about wanting to cover this case all the way since last year. And I followed through with it. I want to say starting in April, I saw that I'm like, listen, I want to cover it. And anytime you want to cover a case, you want to see if you are media, what their protocols are and stuff like that. So I reached out to the public information officer, and the first public information officer was a guy by the name of Derek. And he was like, hey, if you're media, then Mary Beth, it's Neek at Night Media, not Neek at Night, Neek at Night Media. All right. So he said that we can fill out an intake form to see if we would be picked for media. Okay. So the judge basically, he did like a very, very strict gag order, right? So in a very, very strict like court order. So he put in place that there would only be 9 media seats of people being guaranteed media. Anything outside of the 9, everybody else is going to be public. And so they extended it to everybody, and they told us to fill out this intake form so that we can see if we are approved. Obviously, it's not going to be a guarantee based on the high profile nature and so many people wanting to be a part of it. So I'm like, okay, let me get my credentials together. Let me send over, my CNN big. Let me send over me being in the documentary here and there, and me, my articles and links and all of these things. I'm compiling my whole little resume so that I could submit it, so that I could be media. And so I like one day I'm just sitting there like just trying to, put all my stuff together. I'm like, dang, I forgot I did this. I forgot I did that. I'm like, dang, yeah, I was in, Surviving R. Kelly documentary. I was in, oh, TMZ did have my interview and I was cited on, so I'm like refreshing my memory on all the, news articles that done cited me, Rolling Stone, CNN, BT, I'm pulling up all the stuff. So I compile my list of credentials. I send it over and I put, the application. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. It's like, I want to say like 3 weeks go by maybe or so. And now we're into like May. Like I want to say, yeah, we're into May. And I reach out and I say, hey, I want to know, like, when would we hear back on whether we are picked to be like the media? Because when you on that first come, first serve public grind, that could be hectic. Like if you got a guaranteed seat, you don't really have to be in the hustle and bustle of like trying to fight for the line, trying to make sure that nobody cut in front of you. And then, that creates a whole thing in itself. I didn't want that. I just wanted to have a guaranteed seat if I could and, cover it like that. So I reach out and I randomly like wrote the guy and I'm like, hey, I was trying to see if, I've like, when can we know if we've been selected? So he reaches out and I guess the day that I wrote was the same day that they had all of the TV stations in Dallas come to the court and they had special access to the court. Now, mind you, everybody who had submitted, we didn't hear nothing about this special court showing or anything like that. So he writes me back and he's like, despite local media being, and I'm just paraphrasing, I would have to read the email to know like to verbatim, but it was something along the lines of, despite the TV stations being there today, they were let in by the bailiff. Nobody has been selected for the jury. I mean, not for the jury. Nobody has been selected for media. The only people that was there today was legacy media and TV stations, blah, blah, blah. But nobody has been selected. So I'm like, so people who may not be selected or not officially selected for media, they just so happen to get a personal invite to the courtroom so that they can take B-roll and take camera footage of the courtroom, because the actual trial is not going to be streamed, but they allowed like the TV stations to come in to kind of film and take pictures so that when they do their broadcast, they can show people like what the courtroom looks like so that people can get a feel of the courtroom when they're talking about it, even though they're not there. So I was like, you invite all of the TV stations to come, and they're all coming to get B-roll, but they're not selected. Really, 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 I don't know. So anyways, so the guy was like, oh, well, we won't know to the end of May, blah, 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 blah. People are still submitting their credentials, da, 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 da. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So weeks go by and then I get an email that says, hey, media has been selected and we decided to go with only legacy media. And I'm like, if y'all was gonna go with legacy media in the first place, like y'all knew that in the first place. Like y'all knew that when y'all had only legacy media come and y'all didn't tell nobody else about this special invite. Like, so right then and there, I felt like they played in our face because I felt like, why, if y'all gonna give it to legacy media, like why have us thinking that we even had a possibility? You know what I mean? Because in California, whether it's legacy media or not, like if there is like, let's say there's 10 media seats, they're not going to just give every single seat to legacy media. They will mix it up. Like they'll have some people legacy media, some people independent, some people, you know what I mean? Like it'll be like a mixture. So I was thinking that it would be something like that, but no, they put like, it was like 5 TV stations, the Daily Mail, the Associated Press, like stuff like that. Like that's kind of who they picked as media to be approved. So it said anybody else that's not media would just be public, first come, first serve. And then there was like this note that said the people and only the approved media can have their laptop. So I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm not approved media, but you know, I've seen cases where they still let people like have certain permissions if the judge okayed it. So I'm like, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, you know? So I said, hey, you know, I understand, you know, I understand that I'm not selected for approved media, but is there a way for me to submit to have approval to, you know, use my laptop? Like I'll go in public, first come, first serve. But, you know, if I'm in there, if I can use my laptop, then that'd be great. So I get a response back that only approved media can take notes. So I'm like, well, yeah, like, okay. I'm like, all right, well, I understand. All right. So basically, no to the laptops. That's what I'm thinking. Like, okay, well, no to the laptops. Like, I'm not gonna be able to bring my laptop. And I said, but I'll just bring my pen and paper. It was something along. I would have to read the email exactly, but it was something along the lines of like, oh, okay, well, yeah. So I understand, you know, that I can't take my laptop, but you know, like, are you saying pen and paper? You can't use pen and paper? And then so he writes me back and he's like, only approved media can take notes. And so I'm like, so is he saying no pen? Like I can't use a pen? You know? I'm like, he's telling me I can't use a pen. I'm like, that's crazy. So I wrote the court and I'm like, hey, like, am I not allowed to use a pen and a paper to even if I go into the like first come, first serve, I'm not able to use a paper and a pen. So the court didn't respond to me. The same guy responded and he was like, I already, like, it was like, you know, I'm just paraphrasing, but it was like, I already told her no. So I'm like, oh my God. A trial where you cover it and you can't use pen and paper. Now, mind you, by the time I found out that, I had already booked my hotel, I had already you know, paid for my flight. I had already like scheduled my rental car. Like I'm already like money in. So I'm devastated at this point because I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know if it's worth it. Like I'm like, they put in, you know, this
why do you think they don't want like independent media to cover this trial? Why? What are they afraid of? Is there some kind of like spin that legacy media is capable of getting because their legacy that they I don't know. What is up with like not allowing independent media to take note? Let's see what happens.
They're putting like these strict rules and the tone is just coming off a particular way, blah, 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 blah. And then so I had talked to a couple people and I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I don't, you know, I never announced it to my audience that I'm gonna cover it. So I'm like, I'm glad that I didn't announce it because, you know, how can I cover a trial and not be able to write on a pen and paper, right?
Take note.
I'm over here stressing out because hotels booked, rental car, flight, everything. Like literally, we're a week away from the trial. And then, you know, I guess other people started, I don't know, I'm assuming other people started to complain as well. And then I get an email that they changed the rule. Now you can use a pen and paper. Okay. Like days before it was time to come here, I get another update that, you know, change of plans. You can now use a paper. So all is well. But it was a journey. Like that whole process of, you know, waiting to see if I'm selected media or not media, you know, seeing like the rules and just like the tone of it all. And then looking at certain people covering it and they're like trying to cause a racial divide. They're trying to like amp things up and they're trying to make it like as racist as possible. I was getting nervous. You know, I was getting so nervous, but I had talked to Queen Sheba. I talked to a few people and it was like, girl, you know, like, let's just do our thing. Like, you know, let's just cover it and, you know, stick to the facts basically. And I'm like, okay, I talked to a couple of my friends. My friends was like, you need to just go, you know, do like you always do, stick to your reporting, blur out all of the outside noise, da 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 da. So that leads us to now. So all of the buildup and the tone of it, I was expecting to be completely uncomfortable. I thought that, I was like, I don't know, this sounds like I'm going to some hick town. I'm like, ooh, I feel like, am I going to be racially profiled? Like, I was thinking like the worst, but I felt like because the tone was so loud, there's no way that I could not go to cover it, because I felt like our voices gotta be there. So I went, and to my surprise, even though now looks can be deceiving, like somebody could look at me and say, oh, she's a Black woman, and then they'll go with Black woman stereotypes, and they'll label me whatever, right? On the surface, when I got there and I'm looking at some of the sheriffs, and I'm looking at, them with their cowboy hats and, just like their stature, and one had like an AR rifle on him strapped to his chest, and on the outside I'm like, ooh, are these like rednecks, or I didn't know. But to my surprise, looks were deceiving. Now I don't know how they're going to act on the day that trial starts, but everybody was nice. Everybody was pleasant. It was not difficult going through the screening process. The bailiff was nice. He was, trying to be as helpful as he could. He didn't know much. He was like playing it by the ear. He was like, hey, I'm in the blind. I don't know, I don't know what y'all don't know. Like it was not like uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying? Like, I have been to trials where it was not even this much racial tension, and bailiffs and security would just puff their chest out unnecessarily being mean. That wasn't the case today. Now, again, I can't speak for how things will go going forward, but the sheriffs were not mean. The bailiffs were not mean. I didn't have an unpleasant interaction with anybody. It just, it was a lot of waiting.
Right, hold on. I don't know what's going on. So, but yeah, like, so it was interesting. So I'm trying to find out. Okay, let's go. So I think she like kind of lost
with me. Like I said, there's certain times when you cover certain cases and it'll just be a bailiff that just on a power trip. And it's like, okay, that was unnecessary. Like, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? It wasn't given like puffing my chest out and just giving you a hard time just to be an asshole. It wasn't given that. So hopefully that continues. Hopefully it continues to not give that. And, people can go and feel safe. I felt safe with all of the heavy presence of sheriff, because even though they were not mean, it did send a message that we're not going to take no BS. We're not here for no BS. They had their rifle. Like one had his rifle on his chest, and it was a lot of them. It was a whole lot of sheriffs there. So that was a plus, but I'm still going to make sure that I keep somebody with me, because you just never know. There is a lot of vitriol on the comments, even people writing me like that have never heard of my page before, but heard that, I was covering this case, and because of the tone, they carry that tone to anybody. And another thing too, it's being shaped that if you're Black, you're a Karmelo Anthony supporter. Some of us who are Black don't have enough facts to support or not support, but just understand the importance of having a fair and unbiased voice in the room. I'm not team anybody. I don't know enough facts to be team anything. All I know is what the police affidavit says. And based on the police affidavit, it sounds like it could be a self-defense claim, but I'm not there. I don't, I haven't heard any of the witnesses speak out. I haven't seen any of the footage. I don't know if there's a prior history with either one of them. You know, there was allegations of bullying from the brothers. I don't know even if that's true. So I'm team finding out the facts and going off of that. If Karmelo Anthony was wrong, if he was, you know, a troublemaker or whatever the case may be, if that is true, I will find out and I will report that. If there is evidence that that is not true, I will report that. So I believe that it is important to have voices in the room that are going to tell you the facts unbiased, that whether it's good or bad. That type of person is not team anybody. We're team making sure our stories are told correctly, whether they are in our favor or not in our favor, you know, because there are other people who are trying to make a narrative for us that is not true. Okay. And I can tell you 100% that some of the things that is being reported that happened today did not happen. I was there. So like it's like, child, people trying to get them gift sends up, them money's up. Okay. That's what they're doing. And it's working because they like to support, like, oh my God, look at this poor person is trying to get the truth out and the Black people are holding them back. You know, let's give them money. They like that narrative, and they know that that narrative gets the top dollar. So they're going to do whatever they can to keep that narrative. And you got to caution a type of person that every single thing that they say is skewed 100% this way. The scales of justice does not go like this and like that, like on every case. There's nuances. If the person reporting never has any nuance, it's only lopsided like this every time there's never like a positive or a negative, or there's always only everything negative for Black people, consider your source. You know what I mean? Consider your source. So anyways, so let's get into where we stand today. So jury selection was today, it began today. And like I told you guys, security was at an all-time high. The entire trial is going to hinge on one single legal concept: self-defense versus first-degree murder. The prosecution is going to argue that Anthony escalated a simple teenage shoving match by pulling a deadly weapon out of his backpack and using lethal force on an unarmed student because he brought a knife to a fistfight. They're pushing for a first-degree murder conviction, which carries a maximum of life in prison. And because Karmelo was 17 at the time of the crime, the death penalty and life without parole are legally off the table. The defense is going to double down on Texas self-defense laws. They will argue that Anthony was outnumbered.
Thank God that the death penalty, because that would be very tragic. We just had another death penalty person that was around the same age as Karmelo Anthony. His cousin was the one who did the crime, but I guess he got on the news and was saying that, you know, he did it and this, that, the other. Honey, he waited until right when he was about to get like fried, like killed. The cousin finally admitted that he was the one who pulled the trigger, and then they wouldn't hear it. The cousin got killed anyway. All because that the cousin went when he was very young in front of the media. And it was a Garland situation. Go and watch my show on the Garland situation. I mean, people, listen, Texas is very brutal when it comes down to the death penalty. I mean, they're not playing. They're like, nope. I don't care if someone comes and says they did it or not. You got charged for death, and ain't nothing you could do. So Supreme Court said whatever. He got put to death. So thank God he does not have to deal with the death penalty all the way. So that, I mean, I would hate that. You know, his life is already over. But
every single thing that they say is skewed 100% this way. The scales of justice does not go like this and like that, like on every case. There's nuances. If the person reporting never has any nuance, it's only lopsided like this every time. There's never like a positive or a negative, or there's always only everything negative for Black people.
I'm not sure we
Consider
on
your
live.
source.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Consider your source. So anyways, so let's get into where we stand today. So jury selection was today, it began today, and like I told you guys, security was at an all-time high. The entire trial is going to hinge on one single legal concept: self-defense versus first-degree murder. The prosecution is going to argue that Anthony escalated a simple teenage shoving match by pulling a deadly weapon out of his backpack and using lethal force on an unarmed student because he bought a knife to a fist fight. They're pushing for a first-degree murder conviction, which carries a maximum of life in prison. And because Karmelo was 17 at the time of the crime, the death penalty and life without parole are legally off the table. The defense is going to double down on Texas self-defense laws. They will argue that Anthony was outnumbered, he was cornered under a tent by multiple people, and reasonably he feared for his safety after being physically assaulted and pushed on the bleachers. It's a heartbreaking case of a high school dispute turning fatal in a matter of seconds. All right. So it's very sad. And I'm going to be tracking this daily, and I'm going to be coming out of court, giving you guys the up-to-date, up-to-the-minute information as I get them. Now, for me, I think I might do, and this is just for you guys to kind of get a feel, like when I get there in the morning, we got to get there early. So I may do a stream in the morning if I can. We can't bring our phones in. We can't bring any electronic devices or anything like that. So when I'm inside the court, I won't have a phone. I won't have anything like that. So I might, while I'm waiting before we go in the court, I may do a quick live. I'm not sure. But being that it is blazing hot in Texas. Now, when I checked the forecast before I came out here, it said that it was possibly going to rain this week. So I was thinking, okay, well, maybe it will rain and maybe it won't be so hot, but it's scorching. So what I think, unless there is like a lot going on outside and I need to show you guys, the climate, or like if there's protests, or if there's like, a crazy atmosphere that I need to document and go live, I'll go live at the courthouse. But for most of my lives, I don't plan on going live right outside the courthouse. I want to be able to come. I want to be able to come to my living quarters, set up shop, get comfortable, pull out my notes, and speak. And speaking of my notes, let's get into day one of jury selection. So day one, let's go over it, since I briefly went over it, but want to go over it a little bit more with y'all in detail. So in the morning when I did a live, I talked to you guys about how there was not a lot going on at the court. There was a lot of us sitting around. There was a bunch of jurors that came. And 1 second, y'all. 1 second. Okay. All right. So in the morning, I told you guys that there wasn't a lot going on. We had went there, and the monitors in the morning time were not on. There was a sea of jurors that were coming and going. They were giving them some type of packet. Well, hold on, where? Sorry, y'all. Whenever I'm out of state and my phone ring, I got a daughter, I got a kid, so I have to make sure that it's not emergency. It's not emergency, so we can continue. But anyways, so all right. So in the morning time, we went inside the courtroom, and let me explain to y'all this as well, because I've seen a narrative that was created today to. What is going on? Like, what? Hello, is it emergency? Oh, like what? Hello? I'm sorry, y'all. Like, what is going on? They have people that they can give seats, and the defense also has people that they can give seats as well. That eats up a lot of the courtroom, okay? So it is very important that if you come first and you're in the front of the line and you come on a first come, first serve basis, that when you enter into a courtroom, you are entering in the order in which you came. So today, when we get there super early, and there's a line of us outside. We get inside and we kind of sit along instead of waiting, because we got there very early, and then by the time we got into where we can like see or try to see like jury selection or into the courtroom was going to be like 3 or so hours. So what we did was we sat on a bench in the order that we were lined up outside, right? So after, I want to say we all get inside the courtroom. It's about 7 a.m. They open the courtroom. So immediately they open the courtroom at 7 a.m. All of us go in. 7 a.m. is when the courtroom opens. 7 a.m. is when we stop being out of the line. 7 a.m. is when everybody lined up inside on the bench. Okay. So as we're sitting inside, all lined up in the manner in which that we were lined up outside, in comes this particular person that rage baits and skews facts. They come in.
That was Sarah Peters. So y'all got to hear Sarah Peters' version of the story. Now you get to hear the other side, because I showed her side. Again, this is not a biased channel. We got to hear Sarah Peters saying, hey, it was like this. Now you get to hear Nika Knight. Let's go.
And they come inside the courtroom. Now, after we have been sitting there for, I want to say like 2 hours waiting until it was time to go into the courtroom, that particular individual went up to a bailiff and said, hey, can I line up right now? And when that particular individual said, hey, can you they line up, and the bailiff said that it was time to line up, what everybody did was they stood in line in front of that individual in the order in which they came, first come, first serve. That individual tried to frame it as if everybody mobbed, like Karmelo Anthony supporters mobbed them, and like tried to spin a narrative like it's a lynch mob out for them. That's not what happened. There was an order, and there was a group that was in the courtroom before they walked in the courtroom. So why would you walk to the front of the line when you weren't here first? That's what happened. Okay. So again, there's a lot of facts that get skewed and said a particular type of way. Oh, you know, I walked up and all of these people like tried to mob. Like, no, all of these people were there before you got there, way before the time that you say you got there, and lined up and on the bench and waiting for our time to go in line. And when it was time to line up, they lined up. Simple as that. So once we line up and we get in line to go inside, we go inside. They tell us we can sit anywhere, because this was not the regular courtroom. The courtroom that we were in today was specifically an overflow room so that we can be able to see the judge or hear the audio of the jury selection. So we go in, and for the first half of the day, we hear nothing. There's nothing on the screen. We don't hear anything. Around 12 o'clock, we get movement. So at 12, the bailiff is like, oh, they turned on the screen. We see the judge. We hear the audio. So we rush back in. The particular person who had created certain narratives, they had left at that time. So they didn't see the judge speak. They didn't see the cameras turn on. They got their narrative, spent it whatever way, and got on. Those of us who were there to actually hear the facts and hear from the judge, we were there. We went inside and we listened to him, basically address the jury. Now, it was 600 people who came out to be pulled to see if they can be on the jury or not. And when we finally went in, they were saying that it was a 600 jury pool. the judge, on the screen, they had 3 monitors on. There was like a monitor up at the top, a monitor to the left, and then there was like a big projector all the way in the back of the courtroom. And we see the judge, we see his court reporter, and then we can see his bailiff, but we were not able to see any of the jurors. We got to see the judge and the bailiff, but we were able to see like jurors there. Like before they went into that room, we saw like a sea of jurors, like, you know, going there, but we didn't see them on the screen when we went into the room, if that makes sense. All right. So anyways, so 12 o'clock, we go into the room. The judge, he goes up and he starts to address the, and are you guys still here? I don't know if my comments are frozen. Are y'all still here? Am I still live? Hold on, before I go any further. Type of 1 if you guys are still here and listening. So after he said that, certain jurors started to answer. Now, again, we couldn't see which juror was answering, but one juror said, the reason why we have a jury system in the United States is because a right to a fair trial. Then another person blurted out, another juror blurted out, and they said, so that we can be able to be judged by our peers. So the judge said that the importance of a jury is to basically limit the power of government. So he went on and to basically give a speech about how the jury is the power, like the jury has the power. He said, you know, if he was like, a jury of my peers would be a bunch of lawyers, you know. He said, but, you know, why do you think we have this jury system where we have people who have no knowledge of like court or law? And he was just basically gauging the jury's knowledge of the importance of jury duty and why their duty is important. And so he kept going through like a list of different analogies on why jury duty is important and why they should take it serious. So, he said that the purpose of a jury was so that you can eliminate kings, you know, eliminate dictatorships, eliminate people who are, you know, using political power, and take out as much politics as they can and give the power to the people. He then went on to say, why would we let people make decisions that have no experience? And one of the people said, he said the jury system helps place limits on the jury. Okay. So then he went on a speech to talk about how the jury is so important in Texas that you can get a jury trial for anything. So he said, if you have a custody case and you don't like the outcome from the judge, and the judge says, hey, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, by the way, I jot down like, you know, paraphrasing of what he's talking about. So anyways, so in so many words, he said, you know, in Texas, you can have a custody case to where you don't like the outcome of what the judge says. You can get a jury trial for that. So then he says, then you could have it where there's like a civil issue and you could get a jury trial for that. And then he went through different things like a criminal trial, you get a jury trial for that. A civil trial, you want to sue somebody, you could get a jury trial for that. And then he said in Texas that we believe in the jury system. And then he goes on to say that he apologized for how long it was taking. He started to make jokes again with the jury and say, like, you know, I know you guys are upset that you guys have been here for so long and you guys have been waiting, et cetera, et cetera. And he tells them that, you know, there's certain people who have like, you know, they're sick or they're taking care of the elderly or they're over the age of 75 or, you know, they have these different exemptions. So the morning was the court dealing with all of the people who had exemptions and, you know, they had travel that they already had, or they couldn't get off of work, or, you know, certain things. Like the morning portion of it was them eliminating all of those exemptions. So then he said, now you guys are basically what we have left, you know. And then so he started to say, how to make it a fair, like, how do we make it a fair jury system? And he started to ask them, like, what do they think a fair jury consists of? And so then there was more people who started to answer, and they said, you know, they believe that a fair jury system is a jury of their peers, et cetera, et cetera. And then he said, you know, he likes to think of it this way. He said, if I get in trouble, would I want myself to judge my life? Like he told him to think like, would I want me to judge me if I was, like, basically in so many words, like if the shoe was on the other foot, what would I want as an individual, you know? And then he said that jurors need to be fair and impartial and without bias. He said that the jury should not have bias or prejudice. He says that their job is to listen to the facts, like listen to the facts of the case and not be biased, not be prejudiced, and just stick to the facts. And he said that his job as a judge was just to call the balls and strikes. He says, my job is to call the balls and strikes. And then he went into a big thing about social media. He talked about how there was a lot of misinformation on social media. He talked about there was a lot of like rumors and gossip, and he emphasized how he does not want them looking up anything on social media. He basically in so many words was saying that most of the stuff on social media is BS. Like, he didn't say it in those words, but he was basically saying, don't look like it's normal judge speak to say not to look up social media, but he put emphasis like in so many words, like, what you see is gonna be bullshit anyways. He didn't say that, but he said that. But he didn't say that, but he said that. You know what I mean? You get my drift? Like, he didn't say that, but the tone gave that. And again, most judges give the order that you can't look at social media, but it was the way that he said it, like, like it's a bunch of drama, gossip, rumors, misinformation, do not. And then he put like, emphasis on it. And then he started to give a story about his mom. So he used his mom as an example, and he said, I'll give you guys a story. So one day, he said one day he got a call from his mom, and his mom called him, and she was like, hey, you put such and such in jail. And he was like, no, I didn't put such and such in jail. And then his mom was like, yeah, you did. I seen it on Google. Like, I Googled it and I looked it up. And then he was like, Mom, like, if anybody knows about putting somebody in jail, it would be me. And then so he used that as an example that his mom got misinformation online, even about him putting somebody in jail, and it wasn't true. And how important it was to not use social media, not go on the case, not look up any facts about the case, and how important it was that their lives, like somebody's life is on the line depending on them. Like, what did he say? Somebody's life depends on it, or something like, he said something like their life, the person's life depends on you, basically, to like get this thing right. He didn't say that, but you get what I'm saying. All right. So he said that if they can't follow the rules and follow the law, like if they can't follow, like, so basically then he started to say, like, it can't be a situation to where there is the law that says this falls under this law, and then you decide yourself, like, oh, well, I don't want to follow the law. I don't think that, I want to do my own thing. He expressed that, if you can't follow the law, then you need to do the honorable thing and recuse yourself. And he said that the rumors, gossip on social media is not evidence. And then one of the jurors, when he was talking about this, they brought up juror nullification. So a juror brought up juror notification, and he said, if you want to do that, take that somewhere else, like Venezuela. Because I think somebody mentioned, like, oh, well, what about juror notification or something like that? And then he like made a joke like, oh, if you want to do that juror notification, take that somewhere else, like Venezuela. And then he started to mention how he served in the military. And then after that, another juror wanted to speak up, and they wanted to address his characterization of juror nullification, because he was basically saying, like, we don't do that juror nullification stuff. Like, like that was kind of like his tone. Like, we follow the law, we come to a conclusion. If you can't come to a conclusion, good or bad, or, guilty, not guilty, then take that somewhere else. One of the jurors was like, Your Honor, can I address your characterization of juror nullification? And they kind of like said that there was some case where the law was so extreme that it didn't apply, like that it wasn't fair in some state. And they were saying how juror nullification is warranted sometimes. Let me look up the definition of juror nullification. I see somebody in the comments asking what it is. Basically, it's where the jury cannot listen to the rules and just hold on. All right, so Nullification is the act of making something legally void or canceling its effect. In U.S., it generally refers to a state's refusal to enforce federal law it deems unconstitutional. So common usage is jury nullification, and it occurs when a jury acquits a defendant they believe is guilty because they disagree with the law itself. So the jurors feel like, okay, well, I don't agree with this law. Like, they may have did something bad, but I don't agree with this law that y'all are saying that it applies under. So we're gonna like acquit them, basically. That's kind of what was brought up today. All right. Oh, and then another juror said they asked the judge, they said, how do you deal with unconscious bias? So as you guys know, we all have some type of unconscious bias, right? Based on the way we grew up, our life experiences, how we, view the world. You could be a person, let's say Lil Wayne, for example, right? Lil Wayne, when he was young, he got saved by a cop, right? So he had a good, his life is attributed by a good experience with a cop. So therefore, in his view, all cops are good, or he leans more towards cops being good. There could be a different person who has a lived experience where all his life he was profiled by the cops. So he has a negative experience with cops, and his view is bad. So an unconscious bias would mean if there is a Lil Wayne of the world, before really digesting the facts, they automatically attribute that because they had a good experience with a cop, that everybody's experience would, align there. And the other way, like this person always had a negative experience with cops. So his bias of cops being, racial profilers, they're going to always have that bias because of their lived experience. So unconscious bias just means like biases that we naturally have based on our lived experiences. Like if you grow up, in like a Catholic home or a religious home, you might have a bias towards certain religions. Like, they better not look up the facts of the case. They better not speak about the facts of the case. He said, when you walk out of this building, if there is anybody that even tries to approach you, talk to you, you keep walking and you get in your car and you drive off. And then he was like, don't run them over, but you drive off, And so he was just letting them know that, don't get it fucked up. Like, I done told y'all some jokes, but let's get for real here. Let's understand that y'all here to do a service. Your service is important. Your service is needed. And it is important that you don't try to, look up anything to try to get any information. And I'm not, his word, jacking around if you do. So that was pretty much the day. We wrapped about, I think it was like 2:00. I think it was around 2. So the end of the court ended around 2. So he gave them instructions that court was going to resume on Wednesday, and he gave an estimate on how long he anticipates the trial to be. He expects this trial to end by June 12th, but that is not including however long the jurors take to deliberate. So if the jurors take a week to deliberate, that's out of his hands. He just anticipates to get through the evidence portion of it by June 12th. And then they're going to have, however long they need for jury selection. But he is very steadfast and going to get through this case, so much so that he is not going to have court tomorrow. But guess what? No days are going to be lost, baby, because court is going to be on Saturday. Okay, it's Saturday, sticky icky icky. So court is going to be on Saturday, and he said that he is going to run his court on a tight ship. It's going to be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, okay, including Saturday. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. They can have Sunday off, but they're going to get their tails right back there on Monday. Okay? And they're going to expect to be there from 8:30 because they need to be there 30 minutes before it's time to start. And then trial is going to start at 9. And then they're going to stay till 6. And then they're going to have their butt there on Saturday as well.
Child, this judge is not playing. I don't know what's going to happen, bro. Saturday. He trying to get this thing over and done with.
Because he plans on the trial going until June 12th, and he has a schedule. And I don't know if all the way up until June 12th, they're going to have the complete court blocked off. But today, there was no other court operations. Like, they completely shut down the entire courthouse only for the Karmelo Anthony trial. So there was no other judges running any other courts. There was only his court running. That was it. There was no other court cases, no other court business happening, and only was the Karmelo Anthony trial. That's it. Now, again, I don't know if they're going to lock the court down every day. I think I heard the bailiff say that this is going to be for the first week like that, where they're locking it down for just the Karmelo Anthony trial. But don't quote me on that. Today, there was no other court business going on at all. Like, none. Just Karmelo Anthony, and that's it. That's all. So we'll see how things go. I'm here to cover it. Again, I'm not in the algorithm, so you guys definitely have to hit the like button, hit the share button, let people know who are looking for coverage that I am going to be covering it. I am going to be giving you guys as much information as possible. I'm going to try to be prompt. The only problem, the only hard thing is clips. Okay, now that's where y'all come in. I got to get up early, and be there all day. And then come back and then deliver everything to y'all. So if y'all can help me out by clipping the pieces, like if y'all help me with clips so that I can put them on my social media, not for y'all to steal the clip and put them on y'all social media, but help me with some like clips. Like, okay, this was a good part. Let's clip this and just make this its own video. Let's clip this, make this its own video. You know what I mean? Somebody help us out with clips. I need help with that. Like, help us out. You know, I could use Opus clips, but sometimes the clips that they choose be kind of like, I don't know, it don't be given. But how is the sound? So I got a new like travel mic. I don't know if this is even like picking up good, or if when I do these to just stick to my Rode wireless mic. Time when I went to the Diddy trial, I had old business cards that was from when I used to sell clothes to hear more facts. We haven't got the facts yet. Right now, it's only rumors. That's it. So I'm going to be keeping you guys up to date on what the facts are. Now, there's also legacy media in there, heavily 10 or so seats. It was supposed to be 9, but it looked like it was 10 back there today. If I was counting correct. But, you know, maybe I wasn't counting right. I don't know. It looked like it was 10 of them back there. But so there's 10 dedicated legacy medias that's also going to be pushing out these more verifiable things as well. So the facts will come. Is just getting started. Tomorrow is a non-court day, so we won't be in court tomorrow. And so tomorrow I'm going to try to cover some of the topics that I haven't covered. I have to still do a recap on the Cult of Nature Boy. I finally watched it. So we got some opinions about that. We got to give our honest, okay? We got to give our honest review on that and go over all of those things. Nature Boy, he is posting from the jail walls and different people are speaking out. I know that I should have been did it, but child, May flew. My daughter's birthday was in May. It was just a lot. Like, May flew by so quick that, child, before I know it, the documentary done been released a month, but we still gonna get to it, okay? And
so listen, we're gonna be like following Naked Night throughout this whole time, as well as I think that Mel Watching the World is going to be covering it as well. So listen, keep following the channel. I know I'm kind of late, like showing this, because you know, hey, I gotta work, you know, but just continue to keep your eyes peeled here. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We're going to be covering this. Shouts out to Naked Night for her coverage of it. Much love and peace.
Just when I thought I couldn't find my way out, yeah, I searched the God in me to find my way out. I know it can seem way out, but the Creator flows to and through me from way out. I'm talking way out, yeah. See, if you believe in the God in you, it's a better place. Creating the force and the power to live a better life. Just know that